Hey, Nicole, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for being here.
Hi, Claire. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited for this.
Me too. I'm so excited to talk to you about personal branding today. But first, tell me how you got started and interested in personal branding.
Yeah, Claire, my background is actually in personality development. So I'm all about building confidence and body language. And I realized that nowadays the digital world is so important and how to incorporate being amazing at something and being able to be known for something into the digital world. So I'm creating a course called Personal Branding.
That's so exciting. I think
Yeah.
personal branding is something that everybody kind of needs and struggles with. It's something that you don't really think of as a person you need. You think of, or at least for me, like I always thought companies need branding. And I never like understood the idea of personal branding until you explained it to me. But for the people who don't know what personal branding even is, how would you describe it?
Yeah, so usually when people talk about branding, they usually think, okay, it's a corporate, it's a Coca-Cola, it's Nike, it's Adidas. However, personal branding is anything that associates with a name, a human, a person, you know? So every time that personal branding succeeds, it's because you're able to put your personality behind it and people like that personality or people relate to that personality or admire to become your personality. So personal branding really is how do I make sure that everywhere my name is put, it sends a message, people understand it, and people can repeat it in a way that it's exactly how you intended it to be repeated.
Wow, interesting. It sounds so simple when you say it like that, but it's actually like super hard to put your personality online because people don't know like what do you share? How much do you share? Is it personal? Is it professional? How do you figure out how to create your own personal brand?
One thing that scares a lot of people is that, first of all, there's a self awareness situation where do I even understand myself enough to know what it is that I should put myself out as? You know, why would people trust me? A lot of people have insecurities about, I think I've been building it. I don't think people like me, or there's nothing important about me. But then you forget that there are aspects of you that's not your personality, not your day to day. You know, I'm lazy, I'm waking up and binge watching Netflix. Like, you're not trying to project that out to other people, but you're trying to project something that is helpful towards a message. And you don't even have to have a product yet. You have to just build something in a way where if one day you want to influence someone in some sort of way, you've already stacked up your cards enough for them to be like, oh yeah, I've seen her talk about that, create pictures or create content in this type of way. I trust that whatever she says in this field or in this industry, I like it. And even if she doesn't have anything yet, I will wait until she has something or until I can afford it.
Wow, that's really cool. So, do you think that anybody could and should build a personal brand, or do you think that it's like a conscious decision when you get into business to start branding yourself, or should I just like start as soon as I can possibly do it?
This is such an interesting question, actually. Back in the day when we used to be like cavemen. Let's just go all the way back to caveman times. And survival was so important. And you had to just remember who could I trust in what because they hunted well, because they spoke about this well, because they were helpful in this type of way. So personal branding is just literally building a repetitive side of you, something. So if you still take the example of personal branding in a caveman sense, you're almost like painting your cave, right? In a way where if someone walks into your cave, they'll be like, ooh, first of all, you will represent this exact story that you want to represent. And second of all, the people you want to join you in that cave will come. So that means no matter if you're an employee, an entrepreneur, influencer, coach, or even freelancer, side hustler, you still should be building it up because you're creating a community and creating a halo around you. That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. It's like your brand is your messaging, it's like the vibe that you put out, and people will be attracted to that vibe if they align with it. Like for me, I love stuff that's very colorful and playful. And so when I see brands that have that like colorful, playful vibe to it, I'm always like, ooh, this looks interesting. Yeah, I definitely get like putting your personality into a brand so that you attract the kind of people that you want to be around.
Yep, exactly. Everything from your resume up until your Facebook profile picture, all the way until the gossip, how people gossip about you is your personal brand as well.
Interesting how people gossip about you. So
Mhm.
like the word of mouth, what they say when nobody else is listening.
Yep. And that's why actually the main goal of personal branding is for people to be able to repeat you or repeat your name. And it's like, that's what I intended to do. That's what I wanted them to say or to repeat about me. And that's the real success of personal branding.
Yeah, it sounds like almost like a translation. Like you can get your message across to them clearly, and they can clearly repeat it back to someone else or back to you
Mhm.
without like having to wonder what it is. Like some brands are very clear, like Apple, for example. Everybody always uses Apple as like a branding example, but it's because
Mhm.
their messaging is so clear that anybody can explain it even without being an Apple user. Like you understand what their brand is about because they're very, very clear on their
Mhm.
messaging and their branding.
If I could list out a bunch of really good personal branding examples that would be helpful, it would be you might not be interested in technology or in cars or anything like that, but you know the Elon Musk name
Hmm.
because his personal brand has almost in some ways exceeded the Tesla brand. We know him as a tech genius. He is concerned about the future. He's a risk taker. Even in the coaching industry, which a lot of your audiences might be in, is Tony Robbins. You've never really joined one of his classes, but you know he has a big heart. You know he has energy. You know he has a lot of insight. Even Gary Vee and Marie Forleo, they have such strong personal brands, and some of them, because there are different elements of personal branding for it in particular. Some people shine heavier in other parts. In the course that I'm creating, I'm literally going into every single part of personal branding.
So it could work for anyone, like no matter what their personal brand is.
Yeah. So no matter where your name is, let's say, even if your only touch points are email and text messaging and maybe a little bit of social media, or if you're already an established creator or an established entrepreneur and you already have your videos and you have other things going out, you have a lot of content, no matter where you are in the journey, you still can hone it in. You still can create a really distinguishable characterization of your brand that will help you go forward until like your last days.
Wow. I think everybody wants that. So how do you do it? How do you create like an indistinguishable brand that will last over time? Because, people forget about things. You have to be like very memorable because there's always new brands coming out. So how do you create that kind of brand that is just like so memorable and lasting?
I like that a lot. Such a good question because when we think of branding or personal branding, there's this like stress or there's some sort of goodness gracious, it's so much work. That's how you feel almost at first. However, if you break it down into the four elements, there are the strategy. So you have to know what you want to do with that brand. There's the public persona, which is how you present yourself. And I'll talk a little bit more about this. I'll dive in deep. There's something that's called the public persona palette that tells you your personality that I'll go into. And then the third one is brand story, knowing which part of your story to pull in to say something, to say a message that makes sense. And the last one is brand identity. It's what the visualization is like, the photography, the colors, the logo, the things like that that you usually see more often.
Ah, okay, I get it. So there's four things that go into creating your amazing personal brand. It's those four things that you said: the strategy, the public persona, the brand identity, and the brand story.
Yeah, goodness gracious, you're like my favorite student right now.
No, I'm trying to remember because I want to learn this for myself. I know how important branding is, and I see, because I work in marketing, I can see how sometimes branding really holds people back from getting their ideal customers and their ideal clients. They have the talent, they have the skills, they have everything except the way that they're presenting themselves online isn't quite the way that their ideal customer is looking for, and sometimes they don't even recognize that. They're too caught up in the marketing or the emails or, whatever, that they're not really, I don't know if it's easy to get someone who will be honest with you and be like, look, your brand doesn't really do you justice. And so I think branding like that is so important. And I like that you have this system for how you break it all down.
I like that point you mentioned where a lot of people get lost into trying to focus their personal branding into small little things and forget the bigger picture. And also it's hard to get feedback from people. Yes, you pave the foundation and you build it out and you paint your cave, correct? But you also proactively go out there, show up, and you build breadcrumbs of communication of who you are. So whenever people are ready to make a decision on who you are or the product that you're selling or the business and investing in you as a person, then they'll have enough breadcrumbs to look back at and be like, okay, I get what she is. I like that.
Interesting. So you're looking at branding as kind of like teaching people who you are and building credibility over time so that it leads to a sale later on.
A sale, a connection, a friendship, a business agreement, anything at all, or just like a smile.
Oh, I love that. That's so cute. So tell me more about this public persona and the palette. What does it look like?
All right, so I can't wait. I think you've seen a glimpse of it here and there. Just a little preface of it first. I sort of want to share what the difference is between three different things. There is your day-to-day personality, the one where you wake up, you brush your teeth, you get angry, you walk around, you sometimes have happy spurts of energy. That's your personality, not your public persona. Your public persona is more how you spotlight a certain part of you, and then we use that to enhance a certain message or a certain mission. And the third thing to distinguish is your topics. So for instance, you might be a YouTuber and your personality is happy but lazy but analytical. Your public persona is a little bit more sophisticated but creative and fun. Your topics, you can talk about any topic. You can talk about beauty. You can talk about business. It doesn't mean that the topic of business or beauty needs to shine out of your public persona. Your public persona stays in its own range.
Interesting. Okay. I think I get it. I think I'm following. And for everyone who's listening, if you want to watch the video, go to the Guava Box. We'll also include this in a downloadable PDF that you can get in the podcast show notes.
Awesome. So the concepts of public persona, I sort of broke it down into 6 different concepts. On this call, I'll take you to 2 of the concepts, and then we'll also tell your audience where to find out more about the other 4. But the first one is the building blocks. There are 9 building blocks altogether: knowledge, truth, excellence, beauty, entertainment, adventure, creativity, kindness, and spirituality. When we are creating a public persona of ourselves, we mix a few together. I would say it's best to mix 2 together, which I call the 60-40. When you're choosing, and Claire, you'll get to do this, by the way. I want you to do this live on the show.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait.
You have to think about when you come on to a camera, you're sitting in front of a camera, or you're about to record a podcast, write an email, or you're about to get on a call. Think about what is your first step forward. Which one do you think would be your biggest 60? We always have around 3 public personas and we rank them. Let's start with one first.
So I choose which one of these 9?
Your top 3.
Okay. So my top 3 would be excellence, kindness, and knowledge.
Ooh, I like that. So excellence, kindness, and knowledge. 2 different combinations. Which one would be your 60 and which one would be your 40?
I think probably excellence would be my 60. And then I don't know, it's tough between the other 2. Like in the past, I was very focused on knowledge. And these days, I'm a lot more focused on, like, here you have the description under kindness says you are giving and heart-centered. I feel like lately I've been trying to do more of that and try to just give instead of teaching, It's a toss-up between those other 2. But if I had to pick one, I would say excellence and knowledge.
Love it. From what you've just described to me, I've put together two little combos for you. The first one, let's try knowledge and kindness. Put the knowledge like first, saying that my intention is to give knowledge, first of all. And then I give knowledge with kindness. Make sure that everything I do is kind. And the second one, let's play around and put kindness first. Just try the two. They're called sisters.
Oh, I love that name. Ooh, this looks beautiful.
So this is the public persona palette. What we need to do is first look at the column on the left, that is your 60. And the row on the top, that is your 40. Look at your first combination, knowledge 60, and then kindness 40. You become the mentor. If you come all the way down to excellence and you put your excellence foot forward and your kindness foot second, you become the change maker.
Interesting. I love these names that you came up with. Are these all, is this like you made this whole thing?
Yes, I did. I spent 3 months just every day in the bath while I wake up. Sometimes this would be the first thought in my mind. I just come up with like different words, and there are days I just change one word at a time on this thing, but it means so much. And even the description words you see on the bottom, they also are very powerful because you can start now reflecting your public persona off of it, almost like testing yourself. One, do I have these qualities that make this public persona? Or another thing is you might be misunderstanding which one you are. You might think that you're putting your, let's say, kindness foot forward, and then you go towards excellence, and then you become the mindful leader, which is not bad. But then you're like, oh, I don't want to be that much of a leader. I want to shift it a little bit, and I want to share more knowledge. So you can jump yourself back and forth in the palette to be able to exude what it is you want to say.
Wow, that's really cool. I feel like I could spend a long time looking at this. It's so interesting. It's really well done. Like, I just love anything colorful, like, just speaks to me. So I love how you have a different color for each of these. And the words are very clear. I've never seen anything like this. This is really well done.
Thank you, Claire. I just wanted to share with you, like, if I were to go through it myself, at first I thought that my 60 and 40 was entertainment and maybe beauty. And then I become the actress and I'm like, ooh, okay, I love acting. I love being out there and I love being captivating and enthusiastic. But then for business, I realized that maybe I want to put my knowledge foot forward and then my beauty foot second. So I become the powerhouse, a little bit more capable and strong-minded.
That is very cool.
Yeah, if anybody wants this, you guys can actually download it.
That's really amazing. So people can just download it, and then is there a series of questions that they ask themselves to choose, or is it just a matter of looking at the palette and figuring out which one they think speaks the most to them?
Oh my goodness. There's a whole bunch of questions that I ask you to make you realize which one you are. And then there's steps on how to not only choose it, but how to rank it and when to use what. It's all in the download. I promise it's going to not disappoint. And it's going to give a lot of clarity to a lot of people, because I think the biggest fear of getting out there is not knowing which part of you to put out there, right? This is almost like a creativity guidance as well as your own personality guidance.
I definitely think this is going to be super useful for people who don't know, like you said, what part of themselves to put out there. I think that is the thing that people struggle the most with, like which part of myself, because we all have different sides to ourselves and we don't know which side is appropriate to show on social media and to be so visible. Yeah. But I feel like with this kind of guidance and knowing exactly who you want to be can really help you create the right intentional brand.
I'll be teaching this in a workshop, actually. So in the workshop, not only will you see this element, but I'll also zoom out into other elements and how to put them all together. Because the biggest trick is how to make it as holistic as possible. Because you don't want someone to see your social media and then they click onto a landing page and it's like, not the same. Or they see your profile or some post from back in the day or in pictures here and there, and there's no cohesiveness. You know the cancel culture that's happening right now? People are getting canceled.
Mm-hmm.
It's because of not a congruent personal brand. You're building up a certain personal brand, and then suddenly, especially with quarantine and things happening, people and celebrities are coming out and creating their own personal brand. When in the past, Hollywood and different production companies have been doing it for them, it turns out they can't do it as well as how their managers and stuff used to be able to do it for them. This was a big inspiration actually for me creating this course, because now it's like, how do we take all those lessons from how people are getting canceled and not being respected or seen as being inauthentic or not genuine? How do we take those lessons and put it all in one course in a way where we balance mindset as well as application in a really strong way? I promise you it's going to be so good.
Oh, it sounds amazing. And I think you're right. There isn't enough education around how to present yourself, like how to brand. I think most people think that you don't really need a brand unless you are a company or a business. And so they don't even think of themselves as a brand, even if they're a celebrity or even if they have a public persona. I feel like it's something that is so under talked about and difficult to learn, because who is teaching personal branding? Like, it's something that you usually pay a really good designer to come into your company and like fix for you and tell you what your brand is.
Not only do we usually think it's something that other people do for us, but it's something that gives us the most confusion. What we forget is that how we perceive ourselves is the way other people will slowly start to perceive us as well. So a lot of it is alignment work, a lot of awareness work of who you are. And I feel like that's also something people don't talk enough about. They're like, okay, go fix your profile picture, go fix this, go fix that. But what do I change it to? What am I supposed to do? And how do I go about it? Because the question of identity is a huge question that people have to encounter throughout their lives. How can I be clear about this one thing? And so this clarity is what I'm trying to bring out into the workshop as well as the course.
That's awesome. I think clarity is such a key for everybody. And what about if your personal brand changes? You know, like people change as they get older, they like different things, their brand can shift. Do they have to keep the same brand to be consistent everywhere, or are they able to change their brand as they get, go through different stages?
When we talk about branding and personal branding encompasses so much more and has more room for change and flexibility, because personal branding is you, right? So it could be Claire Deli, and you can have a ton of different brands that are underneath you. And the brands itself of your products, of your business, of your movement, whatever it is that you're creating, they're more fixed because they're one thing. But your personal brand, this one is actually the one that gives you new opportunities all the time. And you can, like you said, shift it. So when you try to shift your personal brand, you don't just one day wake up and start saying something different from what you said yesterday. You don't suddenly change your values on your audience, or else they'll think that you've been a fraud this entire time and they will not want to follow you. And I think a lot of people have had that experience of following somebody, and then suddenly they do something, they get a bit more sexy than you thought, more aggressive than you thought, more saley than you thought. And you're like, she's not for me. You don't even go back to that person because you're bored and you think that that's the shift that they're making. So a personal branding shift is much more conscious. You do shift it, and you shift it with your audience.
So how do you shift a brand with an audience? You like let them in on the shift that's happening?
So letting them in is actually the later part. The first part is the validation part. There's two validation parts. The validation of you making sure that, okay, I really need this shift. I want to go more spiritual. Like, this is the path that I want to take. And for the next 5 years, I know that the more I go into this, the more happiness will come to me. That's the first shift, is the internal. Then after that, it's the external shift of, do I want to shift it and give it to this current audience, or do I need to find a new audience? Because that will define how or which parts of your personal brand you shift.
I see how it can be very complicated. Like, you can create a new audience, you can create like a little sub brand. I guess there's so many different things and directions that you can go with it. Mostly, I just want to feel like I don't have to be trapped into one brand forever.
Yeah.
And I think what you're saying is like, you are always you, and then the other things that you do on the side, those can always be added or changed or adapted.
Yes, I think I almost confused all of you just now, just explaining that like weird sort of mindset decision-making situation. But you're right. Your personal brand is, let's say, an umbrella of values. If your values are honesty, integrity, and having fun with your life, once you have that umbrella of values, then when you shift your umbrella of values, they need to go together as well. And then the other things that go into it, like the identity, the logo, how you communicate, the videos you create, things like that, they are subsets of the things that you change. You create your personal brand now. Sometimes it's not until another 3 years until someone sees exactly the content you've just created today. Make sure that it's something that you want to last. And that's something you can change in the 4 elements of personal branding.
So you mentioned earlier that you'll be doing a workshop. What's the workshop called?
Yeah, the workshop is called How to Build an Impactful Personal Brand, and everyone is invited. Not only will I show you an entire roadmap of how to decide what your personal branding is from the beginning all the way to what it is that you need in order to develop different assets in your business, but also the different reasons why someone would want to follow you. I'll give you some examples of different personal brands and why someone would want to follow them. And we would extract that and think about why someone would want to follow you. Is it your fashion sense, your voice, your message, your mindset, how powerful you are? No matter if you're using your personal brand, like you're just living your day to day, you have no idea if you even have one, you have no idea what it looks like. If you're in that stage, or if you're in the stage of, hey, I already got lots of content, I already am known for something, I would advise you to come because you will get this beautiful like awareness increase of your personal brand, what your elements might look like, what the mistakes that you are making might be.
What about branding for companies? Does this apply to a company also? Like if someone comes on the workshop and they're like, I already have a company, I want to learn how to like brand my company better. Can they apply this to that also?
Oh, yes. You know why? Because especially if you are the founder, manager, or if you have any presence in the business itself, you need to be able to build your personal brand along with the brand because they actually go hand in hand. And the more they can intertwine, the stronger and more impactful your personal brand can become. But just letting you know, your personal branding can probably grow bigger than your brand.
Ooh, how
Mhm.
is that? And what do you mean by that?
You know, like decision making nowadays, when you decide on buying something, on doing something, on following something, you always sort of think back. If it's not like a big brand, like such as big commercial brands, and they're like a smaller, medium sized brand, you always sort of relate to the founder. Like, oh, because the founder is someone who believes in that or really loves this or really understands that. So you actually are rationalizing by relating yourself to how much you believe this character of a person without even knowing it.
Yeah, that is interesting. I don't even think of it that way, but I guess in a sense, like with fashion brands, that's really what it is. Like when people buy Chanel, they're relating themselves back to Chanel herself, and it makes them, feel that kind of way. It's like they're buying a piece of the founder in a way. I've never really
Oh,
thought about
yeah.
it like that.
Yeah, it really is like that. For sustainability of a personal brand, it's the question of how do you seep in your personal brand into every touch point of your business, in your customer service, in the team members that you have, in the messaging. So if you can seep in your personal brand into different parts of it, then that in a way becomes branding, the traditional sense of branding that we know of. But it stems from a human, a human that we can depend on for a certain thing. And that's actually what personal branding is, which is we feel that we can depend on this human for X.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Yeah, it seems like you have dissected the whole thought process that goes into branding and like the buying decision, and you've found a way to like tie the buying decision back to personal branding, which is very interesting.
Reverse engineering it. But that's the thing, like that's what moves us forward. When we see patterns in things and we're able to dissect a certain situation and use that framework for yourself, that's when you can just reuse frameworks for different aspects of your life. And personal branding is the same thing. It's understanding the dynamic of trust, admiration, and fandom.
Awesome. And this workshop is free, right?
It's free. When you download the palette, you'll also get some questions and a lot of fun little tips that if you come to the workshop, you'll find the answers to as well.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
So this little palette leads into the workshop and you'll be showing it again to people.
Yeah, I do recommend you checking out the palettes just so you have the palette for yourself as well. So you can put it up, so you can use it. So when I do refer to it in the workshop, then it's easy for you to understand it. And then you also have things that you can fill out there as well and start your personal branding journey, whether from scratch or reassessing it.
That's really cool. It sounds like you are so passionate in this like personal branding and like personal development world. Where did that come from? Like, where did this obsession with branding and like public persona come from?
Oh gosh, Claire, like my past or my beginnings were so humble. I was very I was a farm girl. I didn't have much and I never really had much. All my life, I've just been trying to look at why other people are successful. Why is it that other people are loved? Why is it that other people are getting respect? And what is it? What are the aspects? If money wasn't involved, if status wasn't involved, if the luck of who you're born as wasn't involved, what is it that someone can actually grab hold of and love about you? And so I've had this journey for a while. That's why I got into personality development, trying to see if changing who you are would mean something. But then what I realized is it's not changing who you are. It's creating a second nature. It's like adding more badges to your life, the badges that you're proud to show. And you have to choose those badges, because if you choose too many badges, you put it all on you, you just become messy looking. You want to be known as the bold thing that you are. And I just want everyone to be able to seek that opportunity, find it for themselves without having to have luck. And so that's where my passion came from.
Ah, that's really cool. I like what you're saying about the luck, like if you take away all the luck and the fortune and the money, what is it that people really remember? What is it that
Yeah.
they hold on to from a personal brand? And if I just think about like the brands that I know, it always comes back to the founder and the founder's spirit and their mission, their
Yeah.
values, why they created this company, what were they trying to achieve, who were they inspired by, and who are they serving. And that always motivates me to follow their mission, to follow their brand, to support their brand by sharing it to other people.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you're really onto something in terms of that public persona and being very intentional about like who you show, like who you present yourself as to the world. I think that public persona palette can be a super good resource for people who don't know yet what their personal brand is and how to express it properly online.
Thank you so much for that, Claire. Like, really, I love that you see that. And that's what I want everyone to be able to see, that one, it's not stressful. Two, it's something you can do. And three, it's something you can do really well. And just to come back to that question you asked about, is it possible that your personal brand shifts and moves and expands? Yes, you have that freedom because your personal brand is the creator of anything that you set out to do. Whatever you put out to the world, you need to be like, hey, here's my name. I stamped on it. Here's my personal brand on it. You trust that whatever values I hold, these things that I've just created hold the same values as well.
I think that's the key word there. It all comes down to trust. Personal branding helps people build that trust. And everybody knows like you need that know, like, and trust factor in order for people to want to work with you or to hire you or to give you those opportunities. Branding is one way that you can really establish that trust and communicate that trust with people. And if you build that reputation, then everything that you put your brand on will carry that mark of excellence. Like if I say that, my public persona is that mix of excellence and kindness, and it becomes that change maker, then everything I do will have that like change maker feel to it. And people will come to see that in my work, and it will be known as that. Everything I do will just be like stamped with that change maker branding. And
Yeah.
so I can totally see it now. Like now that you've explained it, now that I see the palette, I think it's making a lot more sense to me. And I'm going to see personal branding in a completely different way now.
Claire, you make me so happy. Like, this is how I want everyone to be able to feel and be able to take it and use it their own. Like, this palette is huge. It's a whole universe of different personalities. It's more than colors in the rainbow. And if you can just see yourself in that, and then to be able to, like you said, put it as like a stamp mark to you and be able to represent it in everything you do, I've done my part. But wait, there's 3 other elements. So, and then you put it all together. But you know what I mean.
Right, right. The public persona is one part of your 4 steps to creating
Yeah.
the perfect personal brand. Well,
Yeah.
that's really exciting. I'm excited for your course. I think I'm going to have to go through that. When is it coming out?
It's coming out September 17th. So that is the launch date. And I'll be having a first launch promo. It'll be September 17th to September 30th. That's a promo at a special price. I don't know if you want to share the price, but after that, the price goes up.
Okay, well, we'll share the price with people on the workshop. If they're interested, they can come to the workshop, they could learn more about it. And then I think once they see it, they will realize how impactful it can be for their business. Like, I didn't realize before this call how impactful personal branding is in the buyer's decisions and in like building that audience and reputation. So I feel like this is something that people kind of need to experience for themselves. And then once they have that experience, they'll be like, their eyes will be opened to how personal branding can really help them in their business, no matter what their business is. And even if they don't have a business, if you're listening to this, you're definitely either a freelancer, a digital nomad, or an entrepreneur. And so each one of those things, like we are all putting ourselves out there on a regular basis to be judged by the world. And the more intentional we can be about that, I think the better results we will have.
I love it, Claire. And yeah, you can find the link to register in the description of this podcast. One last thing, all those feelings of, I don't have anything, I'm not special, nobody likes me, I'm not pretty, I'm too old now, I don't have enough money. Let me tell you that what I'm about to teach in the workshop, you don't need any of that. There's nothing in my course or in the workshop that I'm about to put out that has anything to do with all these insecurities that you have. Everything that we're about to build together is honing in and owning your story in a different way and presenting yourself in a way where no matter what it is you want to be known for, people will want to, 1, pay exactly what you want, and 2, want to work with you.
That's amazing. Thank you for mentioning that because, yeah, I didn't even think about all of those insecurities that people have when they're creating a personal brand. The first one is like, am I even good enough for this? Am I going to put out anything? Like, is anybody even going to care if I have a personal brand? Is that like anybody going to even listen? I think there's a lot of insecurities. Are you going to talk about those on the workshop?
Yes, that's going to be a leading in of what it is that you might be feeling right now and how to change those and how to use it in a way where it actually might even help your story. Because your brand story sometimes could come from the deepest, darkest, scariest places. The scarier, the more powerful, right? And that's how people can connect with you more. That divergence in you is what people will find interesting and you'll stand out from the crowd.
Yes, yes. Brene Brown is all about this like vulnerability equals
Mm-hmm.
power. And you're right, there's so much power in being vulnerable and in owning your story, the good parts and the bad parts. I think even like you said, the bad parts can be used in a way that is a complete advantage to you that nobody else has.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, so I will include all the links so people can download the palette and then they can sign up for the workshop. And that is on September 17th.
Yes, September 17th, that's the workshop. And that's when you can start joining the club, joining the course as well, all the way up to September 30th. And by the way, it's not expensive. It really isn't. We're really telling you how important it is, but the price is like, you can bite it. It's like, oh, and just chew it. It's beautiful.
I've never heard that description for a price before. You're saying it's just bite size. It's not
It's bite-sized.
It's a bite-sized pricing.
Price.
That is a great like branding for your pricing.
Yeah, I think you can already tell my branding, my English. By the way, I'm Thai. I'm from Thailand. So my English is like almost there, but like you'll see that it slips here and there, but
Your
you'll
English
love
is
it.
perfect.
Thank you.
So, where can people find out about you or like connect with you more? Like, obviously, they can join you on the workshop, but if they just want to check you out online or email you, get to know you, how can they get in touch?
Yeah, so guys, DM me. Just find me on Instagram, Nicole.Kanman, and Kanman is Kanman. And it literally, it means, it doesn't mean can man, like you can man, it feels like that, but actually in Thai, it means hardworking.
Wow, your last name is hardworking.
It sounds stressful. Oh no. Is this like foreshadowing my life?
That is so funny and so accurate. You are very hardworking. I mean, just looking at that palette, I can see, literally see the hours that have got into that.
You're saying like you look at the palette and it's like dripping hours and you're like, woof.
Look, I know what it takes to like color coordinate something. I have spent many, many hours color coordinating things. So I know the thought that went into making all of those colors match and like making it beautiful. I can just tell if like I said, my 60 would be excellence. And so I can recognize that in other people. And I definitely see a lot of excellence and hard work in everything you do. So I'm really excited for the workshop. I'm excited for this lead magnet. And I'm just so grateful that you're sharing all of your knowledge around personal branding and helping people who might be scared or afraid of it to overcome that and to do it in a way that's fun and playful.
Thank you so much, babe. I appreciate that so much.
I can't wait to download that lead magnet and to answer all of those questions. And I can't wait to see you on the workshop. Thank you so much for hosting that and like bringing so much value to the Guava Bean community.
Thank you, Claire. I'm literally so proud. I've been a member of Guava Bean for a year now. I just love all of the content that you guys bring out. And I love the simplicity, the fun aspect, the personalization aspects that you bring into it. Not only do you share people how to grow in this crazy digital world, but you also share with people how to take care of themselves. And I just love that balance in Guava Bean so much.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you approve of our brand.
Time to talk about the Claire Costelli brand.
Yes. Thank you so much. This was so much fun.
Thank you so much, babe. Thank you for having me. Thanks, guys.
Bye.